athletes and fans around the world, welcome to another episode of Primetime Muscle. I'm Tim Wilkins, as always, joined by these two cool cats. Tarek Elgindi.
Great to be here, Tim Wilkins. Always an honor to be next to you.
And the one and only real deal, the Gucci Mane.
Gucci Mane.
Chris Cormier. What's up, my friend?
Gucci Mane, what's happening, baby?
Back from your oh, we're bringing it in.
We're bringing it all the way in.
Love bringing it in.
All the way in.
You guys have been traveling all over.
Oh, man.
Vancouver, Taiwan, where you've been in all kinds of exotic places.
Brazil.
Spain.
Oh, yeah, we know about
Marbella,
that. Yeah, we know about that. There's videos.
Germany.
You were at FIBO over there?
Yeah, FIBO was great. FIBO was great.
You've been traveling.
It's been great.
Well, you guys have been around and at these various big events. Everybody knows they've got the booths. The Young Bucks have their lines. The greatest bodybuilders also have long lines of people who still want their autographs and want to shake their hands and get a picture. Today we're talking about some of those guys and some of the greatest bodybuilders to never win the Olympia. Tarek, anybody you'd like to point out?
Anybody you see?
Anybody you see?
In front of you that might have, could have?
So,
anybody you see at all?
there's the usual suspects. And I'm going to say Chris Cormier is probably one of the greatest bodybuilders not to win the Mr. Olympia. I think if you look at Chris Cormier's physique in 1999, is better than a lot of people that have won the Olympia. So Chris Cormier is one of the greatest bodybuilders never to win the Olympia. I think if Chris was competing right now, he could have been, Mr. Olympia 2, 3, 4 times. You have to mention Flex Wheeler. You have to mention Kevin Levrone. You have to mention Sean Ray. We have to be legitimate about it. 1994, he could have been Mr. Olympia. 1998, Flex Wheeler. 1999, Chris Cormier. I think Chris looked his best in 1999. But I don't want this discussion to be about the 90s guys. I want us to go a little bit far back to some of the time that Arnold was competing, and I'm gonna bring here a name that's very controversial. I need to know if you guys are ready for it.
I don't know if I'm ready.
Bring it on.
Yeah. Well, you need to let me know if you're ready.
We're ready.
Okay, I'm ready.
Yeah. It's a 12-minute segment. Tarek,
I think Mentzer.
Mike Mentzer?
Mike Mentzer.
You mean 1980 Mike Mentzer?
Yeah. I think there's something in history about that physique. I think there's something about that method of training, of what he was trying to do. I think he is highly misunderstood. He was just on the wrong side of history, but his physique was great. His method of training was great. And I don't think a lot of people give him credit. I know your friend Dorian Yates would give him credit. But I think he was a tremendous bodybuilder and a great mind.
I would say Arthur Jones is the creator of that method, the high intensity idea, the maker of the first generation Nautilus, the mindset behind the training. So I like that. I like that what you said about Mike Mentzer. I think that whole show just let him down, and I think he started, after that 1980 Olympia, I think he started to just look at it in a different light after that.
Was that the spiral?
Yeah, that was the one, the dagger. That was the dagger for him. But I did see him personally training people as I was a youngin' and Gold's Gym Venice, which was great. I feel like I missed the boat and could have did some work with him and maybe found another different way to facilitate my physique and manifest my physique to a whole
stick and move and change things up.
Yeah.
So, guys, our buddy Roger Rock Lockridge has a list. I'm going to run some of these names past you. Some will be controversial, some you already named. Let's go with Nasser Al-Somebody.
Oh!
Whoa, 1997. Whoa!
But he was even very good in 1996.
1997. Whoa!
97 was it?
I mean, very controversial decision. I know Dorian is your buddy. And I love Dorian
my
Yates,
boy.
but oh my God, I can't believe I forgot. 1997, Nasser El-Sombaty. Whoa!
So here's another one that was a close call. Go ahead,
he
Chris.
was but Nasser was so strong from the front and not so from the back.
Well, Chris, it's the history of bodybuilding. Arnold didn't have great legs, right?
Because-
Sean Roden didn't have a great back, and he won the Olympia.
And I think
I mean, you can say Derek Lunsford didn't have a good, most muscular in abs and thighs.
Yeah. And also, I was going to say, after that 97, I think that was the beginning of the end for him because Nasser never regained that look ever again after that show. I think that was a dagger in his spirit as far as trying to, improve, because then he started taking shots at me when I was telling him I placed ahead of Nasser 95 or 94, 95, I can't remember, at the Olympia, and he was, grateful. He was like, oh man, because I told him, I said, man, you right there. He's like, oh really? And he didn't have that whole thing about him. He got with Milos. Milos got him up in weight way back then in the 90s. And, come 98, after that 97 triumph, he started sliding. And then I felt like I should have beat him in 98. When I took 6th and he took 3rd, I was saying I should have been able to switch with him if you go back and look at those photos. And then 99, I told him you'd never beat me again. And he never beat me again. Nope. And we actually switched places in 99, and he took 6th and I took 3rd.
All right, Derek, here's another close call for you.
Yeah.
Victor Martinez.
Vic, another one. 2007, was it?
2007, yes.
2007.
But I don't think he's the greatest bodybuilder to never win the Olympia. I think he was very close.
But a great bodybuilder that didn't win.
Great bodybuilder, beautiful physique, but I don't think he's at the level of Chris Cormier, Kevin Levrone, Nasser El-Sombaty, because that was possibly his only successful Olympia, right? After that, he had the injury. I mean, if you look at Nasser, Chris Cormier, Flex Wheeler, Sean Ray, Kevin Levrone, they were there for
13, 15, 16 years.
Victor had 2007 and then the injury, and then prior to that, he really didn't make an impression. But yes, that 2007, he was close. I still think Jay Cutler won that title, but he wasn't as close as Nasser to Dorian 97.
Yeah, that was close because he had both injuries, the bicep and the tricep injury. He was trying to hide it as much as he could on stage. He still had the dominant back. Dorian still won those shots. And, I don't know. I still think he pulled it off, because then Nasser had the whole, because we did the, it was a drug testing for the diuretics.
But
And he failed the diuretic test. He failed the diuretic test, though.
I'm requesting something here, guys. At some point, we got to bring back Mike Mentzer and talk about him. I think a lot of our fans that watch the show are huge fans of the history of bodybuilding. And I think this guy is highly misunderstood. And I think and honestly, Dorian Yates had direct contact with him, right?
Yeah.
So if you could talk to Dorian and bring some of that information, that would be awesome, because that's one of the most interesting characters in bodybuilding.
Yes, and he also, taught me, and I'm a huge fan of that style of training, but he took me under his wing enough to teach me the high intensity style that came directly from my mentor. I wanted to work with him personally because I wanted to be as high up to the Wizard of Oz as you can get, if you want to say it that way. And Dorian's the next guy, closest to that guy, closest to the guy, Arthur Jones.
All right, Lou Ferrigno, 1974. All right. Labrada.
Lee Haney was so ahead of Labrada and Gasperi.
He's doing
Skip Gasperi.
He's doing layups on him, man. Come on.
Okay, Sean Ray. Kai Green.
Whoa.
Back up.
2010-11 Kai Green.
Back up. Oh, yeah, this is going to be a sore one.
Yeah. Sore like your eye when I whip you with my...
Say that again.
Sore like your eye when I whip you with my hair.
What's wrong with my eyes? Where's the Visine? Nick gave me the Visine.
Look, now I got him paranoid.
No. Hold on. America. I have very sensitive eyes.
I don't think you're talking about
the influence of marijuana or anything.
Okay, Chris.
Okay.
Sure.
Well,
I got my Visine here, my medical Visine.
There we go, right there.
My doctor said, Tarek, you're just getting old. You're not on marijuana.
So Kai Green.
Talk to us, Chris.
Kai Green, I believe he won an Olympia or so. I believe that he also, I don't know, I just saw him as a winner a couple of times up there, at least once or twice.
I'm going to tell you this. Some of the losses that some of these guys take, they devastate you for a lifetime. Mike Mentzer, Victor Martinez,
Chris Cormier,
Kai Green, Flex Wheeler, 1998, right?
Yeah, but that was Flex's fault. Flex had it all. He had the world at his palm. I mean, he was just like, he had it all. He was ready to go. We're getting ready for the show, and it's a few weeks before the show. He goes backwards and started eating out in McDonald's and stuff like that. Like, he lost it mentally getting ready for that show because it was too easy. Everyone knew he was the heir apparent of the title.
Even though Nasser had taken second, and
he wasn't Flex Wheeler, brother. He didn't have the back. Nasser didn't have the back. He had a strong front and side, but he didn't have the back at all. And so Flex not only go through the drive-through once like a normal cheater on the diet. He goes, he spins the block around again and goes for another one, and will spin the block again and go for another one. Like, he can't stop.
So at McDonald's, when they say you got a special order, they say pull around. He pulled around and got back in line.
All back in line again.
Dang,
sounds like a normal day for me.
So if you take that into account, like, you had this and you started going backwards. It's almost like when a person is, I want to say, afraid of the success that might come with.
He sabotaged himself.
Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't believe he can be the one.
Well, we'd be curious to hear as I wrap this up. Go ahead, Chris.
And that's what Dorian thought of him, because he wanted to be around him enough to get to know who he's dealing with. And once he saw that he was so superior mentally over Flex, he was no longer worried about Flex. That's what he told me.
Well, and as we just recap real quick, Kevin Levrone took 4 second places at the Olympia.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. We would love to hear who
that's
you
my
think
guy, man.
your favorite bodybuilders to never win the Olympia are.
Kevin is mine.
Share with us who you think it is. And we're going to be talking about one of the other greatest to ever do it when we come back on Primetime Muscle. All right, guys, the 1983 Mr. Olympia, the Lion of Lebanon, Samir Bannout. And I got to say, before we dive in and you guys parse his physique and talk about the greatness, there was a monumental jump in conditioning between the 70s era and like 78, 79, 80, and then to Samir's 83 win just got from 4 to 6, what we would consider 4 to 8 weeks out from a show now, to shredded more than we see now. His Christmas tree, his lower back, his lats, everything was so striated.
This is a very special bodybuilder for me. He was not only the first to do it from the Middle East, Lebanon to be exact. There was also Ali Mala, who became a mentor of mine, you know, with the posing and everything. Shout out to Ali Mala. But this guy, he was the first competitor on the Olympia stage that I saw, because that was like the first magazine I was getting when he was the champion. So I was like, okay, this guy looks weird to me.
Weird?
To me, as a kid, he looked weird. I thought somebody pasted something on his body that made these funny lines, and I didn't understand what striations was, and they were all over his back, all through the Christmas tree and through the lats, and I couldn't understand that people can do that through diet. Like, that was just so far-fetched from my mind and my imagination at the time that I was just like, I couldn't figure it out for a couple years. Like, this guy got like this from a very successful diet and look, but he peaked so good and so, like, more than anybody. I've never seen anything like it, but more than anyone else in the show, no one else looked like that to me. So I was just like, I couldn't understand how he got like that. And to get to know him throughout the years, you know, going to Golds, seeing him training in the gym, I thought he was much taller. He's a little shorter than that. He's like 5'7", I believe.
Yeah.
And, you know, to take on all these competitors the way he did, I was just like amazed with the look he brought, and I just couldn't understand. Like I said, I couldn't understand how he got there.
So his back thickness is iconic, right? A lot of people think he might have had the greatest back double biceps of all times because of his back double biceps. He was also a great poser. Wins the Olympia in 1983 by defeating two Mr. Olympias, Frank Zayn and Lee Haney. Actually, Lee Haney took third on that Olympia. A lot of us talk about the dominance of Lee Haney.
That was his first Olympia.
Samir Bannout is a guy that defeated Lee Haney on the Olympia stage.
One time.
Nobody has defeated, him and Muhammad Makawi. Makawi took second.
Oh, yeah. Muhammad Makawi, another beast.
You know, Muhammad Makawi and Samir Bannout, great posers. In my opinion, Muhammad Makawi is the greatest poser of all times. But
yes.
Samir Bannout is possibly the guy that we talk about Christmas trees, right? Before Samir Bannout, there wasn't a Christmas tree. And after Samir Bannout, there is now Christmas tree expression in bodybuilding. I think guys like Dorian Yates, like Lee Haney, like Ronnie Coleman, when they started working out and they saw Samir Bannout's back, they said, I gotta have that back thickness. Because if you look at Arnold, his best back double biceps, 1975, 1973, or Frank Zayn or Franco Columbu, they had separation. They had detail, but they didn't have thickness. You know, that thick back. He's the first guy in the world to bring back thickness. And then you get guys like Mohammed bin Aziza beating Dorian Yates with back thickness, and then Dorian Yates establishes what it is to have a thick back, right? You look at somebody from the side and you go, man, the chest is coming up, but what the hell is that volume on the back? That came from Samir Bannout. Iconic. I love the guy. I talk to him on the phone. I see him in LA all the time. One of the most loving, beautiful human beings we have in bodybuilding, and I'm glad we're honoring him. He is the Lion of Lebanon, and he's inspired many bodybuilders.
And look at the bicep-tricep separation in that pose. It's just so iconic, and I know he tried to get other people to do it, but his physique was just tailor-made for that pose. Tailor-made.
He was, he might have been, you look at Muhammad Makawi, number one. I also like Kai Green. But I think Samir Bannout might have been one of the top 5 posers of all times. I mean, you're Mr.
You
Olympia.
definitely put a lot into
You're
it.
Mr. Olympia. You defeated Lee Haney. You defeated Frank Zayn. You created an expression, and you're one of the best posers of all times. He could have won more Mr. Olympias. Prior to him was Chris Dickerson, right?
Yes.
Chris Dickerson. So I'm a huge fan. I think he's one of the even though he just won one Mr. Olympia, he's one of the great bodybuilders we have.
Dickerson was a one-off. I always forget that he won the Olympia. I think of him as the guy that sings the national anthem. 82.
82, I'm sorry.
82.
Yeah.
And he sang the national anthem for so many years before the...
He was an opera singer before.
Yeah, amazing voice.
Did you know that? He was a mentor of our buddy Sean Ray also, Chris Dickerson.
Absolutely. Chris Dickerson was ahead of his time, not only on that, but in terms of diversity and acceptance in the sport. So we in those terms, bodybuilding was ahead of many ways because we did accept people from all over the world. We did accept all races, all preferences, all ethnicities, all religions. And, Chris Dickerson was one of the lead guys in that, with Arnold, with other guys from all over the world, Sergio Nobre and Sergio Oliva, to lead the charge and make bodybuilding huge in diversity.
Yes, and I like that we're going back into history because I want the next generation to actually know about the history, actually know the real history of bodybuilding. We don't have the magazine anymore, so you guys are gonna have to rely on people like us.
You know what's interesting, because we have an entire category based on guys like this, their posing, their conditioning, their shape. It's the most popular category right now that Bumstead's been dominating. It's called classic physique. These are the classic physiques. These are the guys that represented that movement. The Labradas, the Gasparis, the Samirs, Mentzer. There's guys that had this beautiful posing. Barry DeMay had some, Bob Paris, that posing back in the day.
Bob Paris.
I'm going to tell you this. This is a really good topic. Some people, even though from the past, they're not classic. I think they're bodybuilding. I think Larry Scott, bodybuilding. Sergio Oliva, bodybuilding. Arnold, bodybuilding. Now you go Frank Zayn, classic. You go Bob Paris, classic. You go Samir Bannout, classic. Chris Dickerson, classic. And then you go Lee Haney, no. Bodybuilding.
Bodybuilding. He's everything. He's a unicorn, Lee Haney.
Okay. I don't think he wants to be called the unicorn.
Yes, he does.
But Dorian Yates, bodybuilding.
Extreme bodybuilding.
And then we had Ronnie Coleman. And then we had,
extreme, big
you
nasty.
could say, maybe Dexter will kill me for this, but you could say Dexter in the beginning years of his career,
classic.
He was very classic. So we've had that category for decades to come, right?
Yeah.
Barry DeMay was quite tall, and he had a classic physique. I think he would have made weight for classic.
I think so.
I don't know if I would have made weight, but I consider myself a prototypical classic style.
But you were a bigger guy.
Samir would have been right on the edge. His stage weight, I think, was right around 200. And they've got him listed at 5'9".
Did you ever see those fly movements he would do, and he'd jump off the ground, and he'd jump like 3 or 4 feet off the ground, and he'd come down with the rep? That's where I saw.
Samir Bannout was 5'7", and he competed around 205. He was 100% classic. He would have been a Terrence Ruffin on stage now. He would have been a Terrence Ruffin on stage.
He had the pecs, the back, man.
And I mean, listen, Frank Zayn won 3 titles. Samir Bannout won 1 title. But I prefer Samir Bannout's physique over Frank Zayn.
Well, the interesting thing, too, is, we get so caught up in weight. What does somebody weigh on stage? But when you have this level of leanness, that's the equivalent of somebody else that's 15, 20 pounds heavier on stage. They're carrying all that water and a little bit of fat, and he's just dry as a bone.
Yes, that has a lot to do with it, the overall look. And it's not really the weight. It just so happens to be some people like to measure the, how great that physique was and how much it actually weighed. But yeah, I mean, my lighter weights was probably my better looks. It wasn't when you get heavier. Case in point.
Well, Samir, we salute you, and we definitely we encourage the generation coming up to look back at these guys from the late 70s, early 80s into the 90s and find those iconic posers and physiques. If you're going to do classic, look back and see what classic is supposed to be and be that guy.
Yeah, and stay within the classic idea. Practice the posing, practice the poses, not just posing, but the poses of the classic style. And the classic look, stay within that category. Don't look like an open bodybuilder. We just explained to you the difference between open bodybuilding look and classic look. Stay within the confines of that category. Guys, please.
There you have it. Well, we look back at a very classic rivalry that is not classic physique, but two bodybuilders that held the Olympia title when we come back on Primetime Muscle.
You diet down, train hard, and supplement smart for months. When the time comes to step on stage, don't leave your tan to chance. Go with the pros. Pro Tan. #1 worldwide since 1987 and the official sponsor of the Olympia for the last 15 years. Don't step on stage without it. Pro Tan.
All right, Chris, we're time to go in Zayn in the membrane. We're talking Frank Zayn.
In the membrane. I like that.
One of the Mr. Olympias back in the day that battled it out hardcore. One of Schwarzenegger's dear friends from back then, him and Franco Columbu.
Dear friends and enemies, okay? Let's not get it twisted. They had some tension. Arnold Schwarzenegger comes to America as a great champion in Europe, 1968. Goes to Miami, Florida to compete. Thinks he's going to win the show, and he loses to Frank Zayn. He was embarrassed, disappointed, upset. He lost to a smaller guy that was more conditioned. Gets a call from Ben Weider to say, hey, come to California. Don't be upset. Let's get you going here in California. 1980, let's go 12 years ahead. 1980. Frank Zayn is the current champion. He has an injury. He falls from the chair, loses blood, and he's getting ready to do the Olympia. And he calls Arnold and say, hey, I heard some rumor that you're doing the Olympia.
He said no.
And Arnold says, no, I'm not doing it. And eventually Arnold shows up and wins the Olympia.
Because he was actually shooting a movie at the time, wasn't
correct. So Conan the Barbarian. So there's love there. And there's tension. There is compassion there, but there is resentment.
Well, when you tell a guy you're not going to do the show and you show up and do the show, that's automatically going to get me upset. But, I mean, I understand the gamesmanship of it all, and it was a great move by Arnold, and to catch everybody off off guard like that. But, Frank Zayn, man, with the iconic poses he did, the vacuum pose, with his physique, I mean, it just looks great. But, that's the thing. With his physique, yeah, it looked great on him, but it don't look great on everybody. It was like the shape and the size of his rib cage and the lat thickness he showed with that, and that hard, dense look with that pose. That's what made it iconic.
I'm going to hijack this. I talked about this on a previous episode. I want to ask you as a judge, you as an iconic pro. Here we go. So we talk.
Hall of Famer.
Yeah. We're talking.
He's really upset. Sean Ray. Sean Ray, okay? Sean Ray, you send a message to Nico or to Tim Wilkins saying that Chris Cormier is not a Hall of Famer.
Talking to my quarterback.
In the last 2 months, every episode, he comes in and says, we need to torture Sean Ray in this show. Okay? We're not doing it on purpose, Sean. He's paying us money.
Okay. So my question is about the vacuum. The vacuum versus rock hard, striated, well-formed abs. And I think in a specific classic physique setting, it harkens back to those Frank Zayn-esque Arnold pose downs. But I am not a fan in open bodybuilding of seeing a vacuum. I want to see someone's, when they say abs and thighs, I don't want someone doing housework with a vacuum. I want to see your abs.
Tim, when we were doing vacuums with a front double bicep, no one ever made a big deal out of it. I think that became a big deal when some of the YouTubers, bloggers started talking about it in such emphasis, like it was so great to do, and some people can't do it, some people can do it. Yes, some people can't do it because they don't practice it. Everyone can do it. Girls can do it, guys can do it. Everyone can do a vacuum. It's just that not everyone looks good doing a vacuum, and I just don't think it should replace an ab and thigh shot because we're trying to compare you to, and you're doing two different things. It's not right to compare someone with two different poses when you're trying to come up with a champion for that competition.
I'm down with that. Tarek.
Okay, let me take you back to history, okay, where you will learn something in your life. The vacuum was something existent in the past where you saw guys like Arnold, Frank Zayn doing. Nobody had a problem doing it. At an Arnold Classic Sunday seminar, Arnold Schwarzenegger saying, we're seeing all these guys with these huge guts. You know, I haven't seen the vacuum in years. People should be doing vacuum to showcase their small midsection. After that, a lot of the classic physique guys, and Chris Bumstead was one of the first ones, remember? He clearly stood up. He clearly stood up to the judges. He went to the sides, grabbed his head, and showed a beautiful vacuum. Okay, was that a mandatory while he was doing that? No, it wasn't. But it's a reaction to the bubble gut. You know, we had all these guys with huge guts hitting abdominals and thighs, and they couldn't have done the vacuum. So it's a reaction to what had been happening. Competitors were saying, hey, listen, there's all these guys with bubble guts. Here I am. Not only doing it. I'm not talking about anybody. Here I am. Before Phil, a lot of the guys started with having midsections, and Phil had a hernia, so he has an excuse why his abdomen was coming out. But prior to that, we had guys with, prominent abdominal sections. They couldn't even do an ab shot.
Nasser was one of the first guys I saw like that.
Correct.
But you do remember, Chris wasn't the first one to do that pose, though. So.
No, he wasn't.
Okay, I'm just trying to get a real.
But it's a comeback. It's a comeback on a reaction to bubble guts, inspired by a guy named Arnold Schwarzenegger, who went on a Sunday seminar and said, hey, we have tons of bubble guts around. I haven't seen anybody doing vacuum. And can you blame a competitor? If you can't do a vacuum, he can do a vacuum because both of you guys have a bubble gut. Let me go right here in front of the judges, in front of everybody, and say, hey, I have a small section, midsection. I have. Chris Bumstead did that, and I don't think anybody's complaining about it.
Let me tell you.
Are you?
Let me tell you the real on this subject, because being someone who's actually done it.
I haven't seen a vacuum from you in years, so you haven't done squat.
I can still rotate. You see that?
Please don't do it. We don't need to. Don't do that little dance.
Listen.
I thought he was going to do a vacuum a minute ago.
Don't get me started, baby. Hey, but check this. The vacuum, when we bought the Arnold Schwarzenegger book of the
Encyclopedia of Bodybuilding,
he talked about how to train your body to do the vacuum. He talked about it. Starting on the ground, pushing on your thighs, pulling up in the vacuum. You train the muscles to be able to contract invertedly in towards your body, bringing your belly button to your spine. And then you work your way up to your feet, pressing on your thighs, pulling in the vacuum. And then you work yourself up to your feet without pushing on your thighs and pulling up into a vacuum. It's just the way you train the abs. It's not like you have a bubble gut, so you can't, you have a distended stomach because whatever you did, getting ready for your shows or whatever, how much food you taking in. So it's all about training the muscles to be able to do so. It's not going to be the factor of having a bubble gut and not having a bubble gut. It's not like that.
Well, rotating back to the OGs of vacuums here, these two guys behind us. what was the rivalry like early 70s, that 73 to 75 time?
I think 1968.
Well, I'm sorry.
I think he
Arnold,
asked me.
Arnold, I know, but Arnold thought he was too small to be beating him. He considered him an ectomorph, and Arnold considered himself a mesomorph, King Leo, top dog shit, and he shouldn't be losing to someone like that weigh 180 pounds.
Oh boy, here we go with the Leo again.
He'll just tell you how he felt.
1968, he loses to Frank Zayn. Is his biggest loss in his young career. But they became friends, and Frank Zayn started helping him with the diet. If it wasn't for Frank Zayn helping him with the diet and Franco Columbu pushing Arnold, Arnold would not have been Arnold Schwarzenegger. As he likes to say, nobody's self-made.
A lot of people.
But Arnold's gamesmanship, in the end, was not something...
Who was helping him with the training?
Franco Columbu. Was not something attractive
but also
to Frank
Arthur
Zayn.
Jones helped him.
You know, Frank Zayn is a teacher. What he says, he means. And Arnold is an actor. I'm not going to do the show. What are you talking about? And then Frank Zayn, okay, you told me that. I believe you, and now you showed up. You lied to me. No, Frank. You know, we're just joking here. Let's have some drinks. You took second, third, whatever I won. I'm happy. You're sad, but forget about it. It's just a joke. Just like Sergio Oliva. Let's go off the stage. Sergio goes off the stage. Arnold looks at the audience and says what? You know, for Arnold, all this is a joke.
Lou Ferrigno.
And when you go out there, Lou, you need to scream at the audience with every pose. Scream it, ah!
For Arnold, all this is a joke. It's part of his strategy. It's what makes him, you know, this guy that wins everything that he does in life. For other people, it might rub them wrong. Hey, if you tell me, I'm your friend, I helped you with the diet in the early 70s, and you're lying to me that you're going to do a show, I take it personal. I'll say, Arnold, why are you lying? Just tell me the truth. I helped you when we were young, man. Tell me you're doing the show. It's not a problem.
There you go.
That's a rivalry. That's some good gamesmanship. Well, folks, tell us a couple things. Your thoughts on Frank versus Arnold, but also your thoughts. Like, comment, definitely subscribe to Olympia TV for all the great content. But tell us what you think about the vacuum versus the abs and thighs, or traditional ab shot. Very crucial because it's a big topic right now. A lot of guys talking about it. Guys, it flies by. Real deal. Did you have some fun?
Real deal. I had a great time. I love this rivalry. This is when I started bodybuilding, so I get a little excited about it. Just reading what I could understand about what was actually really happening, hearing the stuff from Robbie Robinson, telling me his little inside stuff, and yeah, it's where I all started my whole career, and I love it. I love the history of it. I love to keep talking about it. Let's bring that more of that.
I got a little message in my earpiece while Chris was doing his dance. Camera 2 got pregnant, so they've asked you not to dance anymore. They said, tell Chris to quit dancing.
No, Nico asked me to smile at the camera, and I don't have a good fake smile, so I got to be like this.
Well, Tarek, I'll get into you and your fake smile.
So while America, while Chris Cormier is talking, I'm always like this.
Thanks as always. I'm Tim Wilkins, and I'm smiling at you for real. Thank you very much for joining us. We'll see you on the next Primetime Muscle.